Welcome to the Upside Down podcast. Upside Down is a donation-based coffee shop, art gallery, and community space located in Westwood Village, right across the street from UCLA.
We are owned and operated by a nonprofit organization called Jews for Jesus. On this podcast, you will hear anything from an interview with one of our barista staff, one of the artists exhibiting artwork in our cafe, or some of the content of our community events in the space.
I'm Ben, and I'm one of the managers of Upside Down and one of the hosts on this podcast.
And I'm Rachel, and I'm the media assistant for Upside Down and also one of the hosts on this podcast.
We hope that you'll come visit us here at the cafe.
Or you can visit us online at upsidedown.com. Now, let's get into the podcast. So, Jake, welcome. We are so honored to have you here on this podcast via Zoom, which is so cool. Thank you so much for doing this with me. Jake is currently in Texas? No, where are you?
I'm in Missouri, but very close to the Iowa border.
Oh, you're in Missouri. I was so off. Oops, my bad.
Northern Missouri.
So, yeah, Jake is one of the artists here at Upside Down. And Jake, do you want to tell us a little bit what you do at Upside Down and what your role is?
Well, I've done many things, usually art related and community related. When my wife and I first got here, I think they had all the things going really well, but they wanted to increase the whole community aspect.
Mm-hmm.
They had the art pretty well, I think, so it's Upside Down coffee art community. So we came in to kind of somebody had retired named Melissa that was taking care of the gallery kind of stuff and developed it in the first place. And we ended up coming on to do those kinds of things, the art related things. And I ended up being the artist in residence. So that means I've done workshops and I've done pop-ups, and we've done figure drawing in the shop, all kinds of things.
Speaking of pop-ups, Jake has a pop-up coming out next Friday, and that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today. Can you tell us a little bit about your art exhibit that is coming up this Friday or next?
I'm very excited that I had this year, or in the January, February, March, I had this space to work in. And it's very near the shop, and I was able to just kind of spread my stuff out and paint and draw in between things. So what happened is I was starting with 2 self-portraits, and they had to do with the Holocaust. HaShoah is coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And my parents are both Holocaust survivors. So one painting was of my mother, Bronia's story, and the other painting was of my father, Abe's story during that time in the Holocaust.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, Yom HaShoah is the National Holocaust Remembrance Day, and Jake's art pop-up exhibit completely reflects that because, as he said, his mom was a Holocaust survivor, and I actually just read your mom's short story about her experience with being in the ghettos and the death march and being in Auschwitz, and wow, it was really beautifully written. And yeah, and so do you want to just kind of share a little bit about your mom's story and how that how her story affected the way that you decided to do your artwork?
Well, my mom's story in short was she was 11 years old when the war began. She was one of 4 kids. When I say when the war began, I mean it was a big war. So when the Nazis invaded Poland in the city where she was from, Lodz, and she was, kid. She had graduated from the sixth grade, I think, and all of a sudden, their lives changed, and they had to move from where they were into the ghetto, another part of town, another part of Lutch, where the Jewish people had to stay in a restricted place. And they had to work to help the German war effort. And that's what she did. They had very little food. And there was sickness as well. And my grandparents, her mother and father, both died early on. So she was kind of like, still, she had a couple of younger siblings. Her oldest sister had gone. So she was like 11 or maybe 11, 12 years old. And she had to take care of these younger kids and be creative about it. So probably when the ghetto was liquidated or after a few years, they were sent to Auschwitz. By that time, it was just she and her sister, little sister. And that only lasted about 2 weeks. And she was sent to some other labor camps and just survived. And she ended up the death march to Bergen-Belsen, and Bergen-Belsen, she was liberated. She got typhoid fever. She was in a coma. She woke up. The war was over, and her sister had passed away. So she was the only survivor. It was, and I've told the story at Upside Down to the baristas. We have a really great barista team, and we were investing into them, and they wanted to know a little bit more about it. So, when we first got here to Los Angeles, I ended up with an opportunity at the Holocaust Museum LA to be part of a program called Descendants of Remembrance, where they equip you to tell your survivors a story.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I've got a slideshow that I developed that I use at the Holocaust Museum to tell that story to seventh and eighth graders usually. So I've done that, maybe 4 or 5 times at the museum.
Oh. And your mom, I think I remember reading in her story, she kind of found faith through just like surviving and trusting. She was sort of the light in these camps where people actually came to her and told her, "You saved my life," because she would say things like, "Oh, I'm gonna see everybody again in heaven," and she had
That
faith.
that was the way she would cope with things, not just there, but later on in her life. Even when she was in older adult communities, she saw herself as a volunteer to kind of help people. That's just kind of the way she pictured herself, and I'm sure that helped get her through. She had an optimistic view of God. She didn't look at it like, I mean, you could look at it either way, right? But
Yeah.
get bitter towards God. You can get bitter or better, and I guess she chose the latter.
Can you talk about one or two pieces of your pop-up and kind of how you decided to make those pieces and what about your mom's story is reflected in those pieces?
Well, I started with the two paintings that I told you about, and I used images. We do not have anything from my mother or really my father from much before the war. When we got here to LA, my brother sent me a scan of an old picture of my father smoking a cigarette or with a cigarette in his hand reading a Yiddish newspaper. And
Wow.
I did a drawing, some drawings and things, images of that. And
Mhm.
that's the way it started. And then I did a drawing of that, and plus myself in the front of it to get kind of a feel how that self-portrait would go. And that was the first study, and that's actually framed in the exhibit. Friends of ours were very kind to volunteer to frame that, so I'm excited to see it. I haven't seen it framed yet. In fact, it's going up on our 43rd anniversary, so I'm
Of you
real
and
happy about
Katie?
it.
Your 43rd.
That's on the in a few days. It's going to be mounted in the space, and then on Monday we'll see it for the first time, I think, unless we stop in there. But we're going to travel, I think, on Sunday. So yeah, Monday probably be the first time we see it. And so it's those three pieces: the study frame, the those two self-portraits, and then I started on these death march paintings.
Wow.
And they really feel kind of like ink wash. I used to do these really huge ink washes back when I was late in my student career, uh, way back when, and I kind of harken back to some of those. I use imagery. There's not much Death March imagery at all, and I did some screenshots from a documentary, and I used some of those, and part of the titles of those pieces are really long. It's called Death March Hester Panim 1, and then Death March Hester Panim 2 and 3. And on one, I've got one of the characters on the march, and I used some gold leaf on three stripes to indicate God's presence. So
Wow.
Hester Panim means hiding the face, hiding the face. And basically, it's a concept in from the Bible and in Judaism about where was God? This he was there, but his face was masked or hidden, and it's something that the post-Holocaust theologians have struggled with and things. So it was actually kind of what would we call that? Cathartic, just doing these paintings. And I was kind of left alone in that space in the studio, and I'd listen to music and I'd do these paintings. It's hard to tell when the painting's done and when it's not. So I even had a kind of a incident where I backed up into this the stuff that holds the size, that holds sort of like a glue that holds the gold leaf onto the canvas, that you use when you're doing gold leaf, and it kind of exploded onto the canvas all over the place.
Oh my gosh.
But that was kind of good because it kind of indicated to me that I was done. I quickly got gold leaf and I put it on all the places where it had landed. So it's kind of like so there was a little bit of random God part to this whole thing. So that was kind of neat, because they really, in some ways, they might seem unfinished, but to me, they're right where they ought to be.
See, I'm not an artist at all, so I look at it and I'm like, wow. Even if it's not finished, I'm like, this is so incredible. Like, wow. That's so cool.
So
And
it was really great for me to be able to get back into the studio and to just handling the stuff. I felt, how you get back into something, you feel kind of unsure of yourself. So this has added to a little bit to my confidence. You could put on a little business card, artist in residence, but if you're not doing it all the time, you don't feel like that.
you're in there all the time, though. You are, man. Wow. Well, I guess I'll just move on to the next question that I had for you is how do you feel like you were able to emotionally process your mom's like story and just kind of the weight of being a Holocaust survivor like through your art? Do you feel like it helped you to process the whole story?
Yeah, it's not just that, but I've kind of avoided it. We would joke. That's how we would deal with it as I was growing up. If we'd take we'd be on a long walk or a hike, it'd be a death march or that kind of thing. But I would avoid things like I don't know that I've still ever seen Schindler's List all the way through. So it's not like I mean, I read about WR as a little kid because it was laying around a little paperback, and I read Night. And it's not like I totally avoided these things, but I kind of did. I did like Defiance. That was a Holocaust movie I liked, but it had more to do with partisans that were in the forest that were fighting. It's a whole different kind of a feel to it. Um, Hogan's Heroes, that was okay. Um, but when we got here to LA, um, I participated in that program, and that kind of put me in a mode where I was like investigating her
Mhm.
life and trying to put it together. I think what happened was, and this is true of many Holocaust survivors, especially the ones that are younger, the children. And she
Yeah.
was 11 when the war started, so that would be her classification. And they block out a lot of things, and
Yeah.
they're just totally just block things out. They'll pick and choose, and so it'll be kind of scattered and random. So I had to re-put it back together and figure out from stories and this and that, um, what all really happened. It's not like stuff was made up, but certain things I think were uh, blocked out. Uh, so therefore, um, I thought that she was liberated from Auschwitz after and got a coma there, but that's not what happened. What happened was she was on the death march to Bergen-Belsen and was liberated there. And I figured that out from listening to her tapes and this and that. And when I say tapes, Spielberg started this program with USC called the HaShoah Project. So they would record oral history. So I had access to that. And anyway, in doing all that, one time I was upstairs. I was listening to the testimony of one of the people that liberated that camp, one
Mhm.
of the soldiers who liberated Bergen-Belsen, and I was like blown away because when they talked about liberation, think about this joyous occasion or something, but it wasn't like that. It's like they showed up there. These soldiers showed up there, and they couldn't believe what they saw, and they couldn't. Very much, it's hard for them to tell the living from the dead. And there were just piles, like tens of thousands of piles of bodies, and that hadn't been buried, uh, and the people were just totally, bones and everything. And this was my mom was part of that,
Wow.
so I knew that she had gone through it, but I didn't know all the detail. So that blew me away.
Wow. I think as Jewish people, we all feel the weight of Yom HaShoah, but especially as somebody who had a parent literally go through it, I'm sure that you are feeling like, wow, I can carry on my mom's legacy through my art, through your artwork, which is really cool that you get to do that.
Yeah, they had me in the program at the Holocaust Museum. You pick one person and you do it on this. So I picked my mother because I knew more about it, and she did the tapes. My father never talked about it,
Mhm.
except for every once in a while, he'd get up and say something kind of almost like, you know, atheistic or something, and he would talk about how he saw people machine gunned down, in the middle of when they were praying.
Yeah.
So he'd come up with little things like that every once in a while. Talk about the polar bears. So I include polar bears in his story, but I also, in doing these paintings, I was investigating his story, and I got a little bit more. But I think he was a tailor, and he would work out of the basement, and his customers would go downstairs. And they told me that they would go for his stories as much as for the alterations and the buying suits and shoes. So anyway, so they got more of his stories than I ever did. I even asked, he did have a living brother,
Mhm.
which my mother never had. He had a brother named our Uncle Al. And and I contacted his daughter and I asked her if Uncle Oliver talked about, what they had gone through. She said no, he never did. So um, he had a whole other route. He was beat up and he spent a year in Siberian prison camp, and he talked about how cold it was and everything. And he somehow ended up in France, and they met. So I'll talk about all those things on the 25th. And the pop-up show is actually leading up to Yom HaShoah. And
Okay. Mhm.
so it starts on Monday. It'll be up. So if you're in the shop anytime between this coming Monday, the 21st, maybe, or the
Yes.
21st and Friday the 25th, you'll be able to see the show. And of course, it's a coffee shop, so it closes at 3, and then on Fridays we close early. But
Mhm.
that's the evening that we're going to have the event. And the event is in conjunction with a group called Salon. I'm sorry, Zikaron Salon,
Yep.
which
Mhm.
means remembrance in living rooms. And you probably have questions about that.
I want to talk about Zikaron.
Yeah. What I understand about it is that Yom HaShoah used to be a big thing to remember the Holocaust in Israel, but a number of years ago, someone realized, a young person, but she was like 30 something, she realized she was the youngest one at this big Holocaust remembrance thing. And she thought, well, this is not going to the next generation. It's not working. So they developed this remembrance in living rooms, and it really caught on big. And it's like all over the place. And our friends, the Turnal, Joshua Turnal, is connected in very closely with them in France, and he's part of our French work. He leads that. So, and we are working on a project together. Was his idea, and it's a Holocaust theme Haggadah. And another piece in the show is is called Kaddish Urchatz, or the Seder song,
Mhm.
and it's got Holocaust themes in it, but it's part of that project that we're working on. So that's a large piece in the show as well.
Yes, and we
So
are partnering with Zikaron next Friday
Zikaron
at
Basalam,
the art
yes.
pop-up.
Mhm.
So that
Yeah.
would be really cool to see that.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see friends that we've made over the course of time. If
Yeah.
they can make it, that would be great. We'll have I think it'll be real special.
Just taking in every single thing that you say because I'm learning more right now and I'm just so amazed. Oh my gosh. Wow. Um, is there anything that you think anybody should know specifically from uh anything that you want people to know about Yom HaShoah, the pop-up, any significance of your art that you want to share?
My parents were, we were refugees, right? Or we were immigrants.
Mhm.
So a lot of the work is about that theme as well. On the painting of my mom's story, it features a really large, a couple of travel documents that were done in France. And I did a portrait of her from a picture on there. And that is, I blew that up. And it's, I think I was pregnant, according to the document. I think she was pregnant with me in that picture. So that was kind of fun. And she had a real, a very hopeful look in her eyes and everything. So I thought that was cool.
Mm.
We're trying to create community, create space for people to get to know each other. And while doing so, I feel like I've gotten pretty close to some of the different students that have gone on and graduated and such. So I hope they find out about this thing and show up, and we can kind of have kind of special time together on Friday.
Yeah.
Or I'm not sure what I'm going to be doing during the week, but I was open to like set up and do some painting in the space during that time.
Yeah.
So we'll see. And also from that point forward, the ones that are setting up events and such, including my wife, are working on a show coming up. And it'll be called Tikkun Olam, which is fixing the world. So this is about the world being broken. This HaShoah, remembering brokenness.
Yeah.
And we look forward to the next show that'll have to do with, how this stuff that's all been put upside down be put right side up again.
Yes.
Or is it possible, or whatever, So artists have submitted work that struggle with those questions. How do we fix? How is the world going to get fixed, or has it fixed, or is it is it too far gone?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really powerful art exhibit showcasing all these things. And I'm really happy that we got to talk about everything today. And I thank you for taking your time in Missouri, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we've been putting a lot of miles on,
Oh,
and
wow.
we've really enjoyed the people that we've met out here. We're from St. Louis. We've only been in Los Angeles. We rolled into town on the 16th of April, 2023. So
Okay.
on the 16th of April, which is what, today, it'll be 2 years since we rolled into Los Angeles. And we're really happy about meeting all you guys. We're tickled about meeting you, Rachel, and I've already met your sister-in-law and stuff like that. And it's great to see your passion for the Lord and for what's going on here in Los Angeles set upside down. And we're so glad to be part of it.
Yes. Oh, me too. All exciting things. I'm really looking forward to your pop-up. And yeah, well, thank you guys for tuning in and hearing Jake's powerful story, and definitely come into Upside Down to see the pop-up of the art that he mentioned. And next Friday, the 25th, will be the art exhibit showcasing all of the pieces. So we hope to see you there. Bye.
Thank you for having me. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Upside Down podcast. If you have questions for us, you can email us at hello@upsidedown.com.
Thanks for listening.